I think that the sharing of information is definitely becoming more popular. And as a result,
You can actually just query ChatGPT. It's the repository of all human knowledge over like the millennia.
There was a reason for me to be on Google Plus. At the time, you automatically indexed. They had great authorship. They were very deeply connected to SEO because
Showrooms become less effective as a distribution channel for furniture companies, striking up partnerships with designers who have closer held consumer relationships that are in the ears of their clients.
we like brands to invest in designers by giving them, resources like interior design communities. So if they want to sponsor IDC.
Welcome to another episode of the Furniture Economy podcast. The furniture industry doesn't run on factories or showrooms alone. It runs on people, relationships, and shared knowledge. Today's guest has quietly built one of the most influential connective layers in the interior design world. Laurie Laizure is a founder of Interior Design Community, a global network of over 200,000 designers, students, and industry professionals. What started as a small group online has evolved into one of the most trusted platforms for learning, collaboration, and visibility in the design community. Laurie sits at the intersection of design, business, technology, and she's seen firsthand how the economics of furniture, sourcing, marketing, and professional survival have changed over the last decade. Today, we're going to talk about how designers really make money, how community has replaced gatekeepers, and what the future of the furniture economy looks like from the inside out. Laurie, welcome to the Furniture Economy.
Thank you for having me. Very excited.
So just to get into some origin and backstory, you started the interior design community over a decade ago. What problem did you see in the design industry that others weren't paying attention to yet?
I think that it was purely by accident. Actually, I was at the time marketing a product. I came from this industry, from the wallpaper industry. I was very much part of the giclée world. I know the people who invented the term giclée and developed canvas watercolor paper for fine art reproduction. And I came across a material that I knew was going to be a big product, which was peel and stick wallpaper back in the day. And I wanted to get to know designers to utilize the product and to learn more about how it could work in the industry. And at the time, I was learning about e-commerce and digital marketing and social media like everyone else. It was all brand new. And I was having some success with automation tools and strategic SEO for our own site. And I was just sharing that information originally on Twitter. It was the go-to place. And for SEO blogging, I was using Google Plus. So we originally, Interior Design Community started on Google Plus, and we built that up to almost 100,000 people before it went away. And you could tell it was going away. So I focused efforts on Instagram and some of the other platforms. And we've never not been able to build it. And I think the reason that we did, and I ended up selling the wallpaper brand and focusing on it, was because there was this hole where there was a lot of gatekeeping and a lot of people resistant to sharing information. I remember early days, people were suspicious of me. Like, what is her angle? Why is she sharing how to do this? And I didn't realize that was something people did. I thought we all shared information to get better. From my background in fine art reproduction, I would develop a product line. I would bring it to market. I would manage the sales team, support team. And oftentimes the top clients in the country would call me and ask me, Laurie, what's happening out there? Because sometimes when you're a solo entrepreneur, you're in that little, cycle of just doing your business, and you don't see what's out. What are the new products coming in? What is someone else doing that's successful? And so for me, the market I came from was always sharing. So I didn't realize that this was an issue in this industry, and so I felt like it was something easily solvable. It's a lot bigger of a problem than I initially anticipated. And it's something that we're still working to solve because there are so many designers who just don't have the key information they need to have financially successful businesses.
It's a testament to like the almost insatiable demand in the market for a community like yours, the fact that you had to re-platform, and growing to 100,000 users on a platform that eventually goes away is no joke, right? That's significant time, energy,
Yeah.
investment. But then that you're able to rehome the base of your community and still be able to grow it to the extent that you have.
You have to be flexible, right? I mean, you have to move with what your tools are that are available today, and there was a reason for me to be on Google Plus at the time. You automatically indexed. They had great authorship. They were very deeply connected to SEO because it was owned by Google, who owned search and YouTube. They had an amazing feature. This is pre-podcast. They had a Google Plus Hangouts, which were the first form of like live streaming and having webinar events, which were fantastic. I did a ton of them with big businesses. So, it's good to get in there and learn new technology. But we did learn, and something that became part of the mission was everything we're building on social media is building on borrowed land. And so it was very important for me to invest heavily in databasing my own community. And we spent a lot of money and a lot of time doing that and creating our own website, our own email marketing, our own events. And we have a lot of our database is at over 100,000 also. So our email list is 60,000 subscribers. We had to build that out also because we can't trust entirely that the social media platforms that we build on are going to be there tomorrow.
Interesting. And how do you think community or the role of community interior design has changed since you started, back in the day?
I think that the sharing of information is definitely becoming more popular. And as a result, there's a lot of changes. I think that people are thinking about income streams in different ways, succession plans, investments, how designers can become real business powerhouses and their firms to do that. And so that sharing of information is trickling down to real changes. And I've seen that on the micro level as well, like helping businesses grow and then seeing that they have been sold and watching that journey in our industry and being a part of that early advisor role or being a part of those journeys for the individual designers. I give a tremendous amount of time to the community. It's a 7-day-week job. I am who a lot of designers come to when everything is going right or when everything is going wrong. So, I've just built that as a resource for them. And as a result, I get to view the journey.
Amazing. Do you feel like, let's say 10 years ago, people are holding their secrets close to their chest? How do you build a successful business? And ultimately it's a competitive market. They don't want their competitors to know. Do you think that there is value that you can get from sharing information that potentially can be used by your competitors? And in what sense?
I've watched it happen that people are, so I will caveat this by saying, sometimes there are bad people and people will take advantage of other people and that just happens and that's part of life. But no one can be you and no one knows what you know and no one knows what your skill set is. They can't truly copy you. So, in that, there's so much more success from sharing. I have, I will use an example. There's a designer called Shelly Hudson, and she has a group of designers in the LA area. They are absolutely competitors. They have gone up for the exact same jobs. They are in the same area, all that, Southern LA area where they compete on a regular basis. And these are very big projects with a lot of big budgets, and they are very good friends. They're in a text group with each other and they share the good, the bad, and the ugly with each other. Like, I had this problem with this vendor, or I had this problem with this client, and and there's a circle of trust there. They help each other truly. They're a resource for each other. They do some collective bargaining with some brands. They do events together and are a real emotional and business support to one another. So if they don't have an account with one product line, they'll share accounts. They want each other to do well. And they've even passed jobs off to each other like, hey, this would be better for you. It's not really a fit for me. They've done that as well. So there's lots of examples of that around the country. Some of them are within associations like ASID or NKBA, and some of them are online. Every 4 months we do a thing called Let's Follow Each Other. And that people get sometimes 200 followers from participating that day, but they have made real relationships with those people. Going to trade shows with them. I've seen designers be in each other's weddings, and it's lovely to see real life friendships, real life bonds happen from online relationship. And I've seen it over the 13 years many, many, many times.
Yeah, super interesting. And like nowadays with AI, there's such a democratization of information. And so what used to be a closely held trade secret maybe is less protected in that sense, right? Like you can actually just query ChatGPT. It's the repository of all human knowledge over like the millennia that, we've been around. And so instead of putting more emphasis on trade secrets and information, emphasizing a little bit more relationships, community, helping each other, collective bargaining, getting into deals, resource sharing, et cetera, seems to be a more effective path for a lot of interior designers that are trying to run successful businesses today.
You know, this is a tricky question for me because I think our industry, unfortunately, is not as AI friendly as some other industries to search. Like so many of our product lines are to the trade only. And so their pricing isn't online. So you can't query and find out like what does a Century sofa cost at stocking dealer price? Like you just can't, you're not going to be able to find that out. The same thing goes for interior design prices, because so much of it is custom, so much of it is a la carte, where it's created for that client specifically. How big is their space? What is important to them? What level of product line are they going to be interested in? In what area are they going to do like a more budget friendly in the guest rooms and then a more luxury version in the primary suite? Like all of those factors are trickle down to a price point that is very custom. And so as a result, I think we have, unfortunately, a lot of secrecy still left because you cannot Google or go on to any very few interior design websites and see what it costs to do what they do. And the same thing for the to the trade furniture lines or custom furniture lines. Or, I mean, it's still, I don't think it's AI-able yet, truly.
Got it. Okay.
I'd
No,
like it to be. I'd like more designers to be sharing what that minimum expenditure looks like, what a typical room costs, because I think it's a big sticker shock when a query comes in. Sometimes they get ghosted immediately because the person has literally no idea what a luxury kitchen costs, for instance, which is, by the way, about $250,000, So I don't think that many people know that going into it. So if you think you've got a healthy budget at 100,000, to get top of the line appliances and get top of the line countertops and tile and all of the things you might need, or a sofa that might be, you're getting a custom sectional, it could be 25,000 bucks, So those kinds of things where you don't know, if you haven't done a design project in 15 years, and you're doing one now, you're in for a big surprise because prices have changed, So I think that's a trouble with our industry is the sticker shock, and maybe a little bit more education for the market so that they know what they're going to expect when they talk to a design firm.
As you're speaking, it really gets me to reflect on our experience building a community for furniture resellers. And, we've been in business over 3 years now within this market. And our whole focus at first was like spreading awareness, letting people know, hey, there's like real honest economic opportunity. You want to get out of your 9 to 5 and you're willing to work hard. Like here's the business model. And of course, the people that were like in the game already doing it, they hated us. And they, I think today they've kind of started to accept us and like because of the value that we're bringing and, they're like realizing, oh, I don't know everything. Even if I am ahead, there are things that I can learn from the new entrants and we're all ships are kind of rising in the tide. At least I like to think. But I can imagine those early years, especially, that you were met with a lot of resistance. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. But I think that there's still, for what you're doing too, there's still so much that could be done. I mean, I just think of like Facebook Marketplace, like as an example. And most of the end users don't really know the brands that are really truly custom and high quality brands. Do they know to search like Century Furniture or Lee Industries or Bernhardt, or are they searching Restoration Hardware? And I know reupholsterers who won't touch Wayfair product, won't touch Resto product because it's not the best made, And so when you're taking off the upholstery and you're reupholstering, what's inside matters. Are you going to be replacing that? Is there cardboard in there? Like these are things that, if you're going to sand the table and it's like a composite wood that can't be refinished at all. These are things that I think a community needs to know, and where, what to search and what to find that are good finds that are, heirloom quality product. And I think our communities could do a really good job talking about what's good out there. There's so much great stuff that already exists in the world, but there's a lack of knowledge base from the consumer level to value the good stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what's interesting is our company, we sit in between furniture resellers and also furniture retailers, right? So the furniture retailers have return product, liquidations that they're trying to get rid of. And then the resellers need inventory to resell and grow their business. And one of the big agendas that I hear when I'm speaking with furniture retailers, like what's on your Q2 strategy? What are your strategic objectives for the year? All of them say we need to grow our trade accounts. Everyone wants to work with more stagers. Everyone wants to work with more interior designers. Now, as someone that runs the community for interior design, sitting between brands and manufacturers, consumers, how do you see the influence of design on the furniture economy changing or growing?
It is becoming more and more important. I can tell you 100%, because in all aspects of it, whether it's antiques, whether it's refurbishing, whether it's new, whether it's resell. I mean, there's all aspects of it. As you know, since 2020 and COVID, many showrooms have not been able to survive. The cost of retail space has, in some places, quadrupled. And that is causing a real impact on some of these brands. Now, from the brand perspective, if they did not get into the e-commerce game early, if their channels have always been primarily through showrooms, then they are late in the game to learn e-commerce, and they're going to be competing on price and the way a photo looks, and they may not have the SEO to really compete in the same way that a brand who has already done the work on that front. And so it becomes a battle of price, it becomes a battle of photo. And I think it's really tricky. And so designers have become that unpaid sales force for a lot of brands that don't think that that's a good investment strategy. And we're seeing more and more that, the designers are, the way to do that. And I think that they could. I think that there's a potential to unlock designers to even do more business with furniture and with product lines. I think that they should get, I would love to see brands invest in training to help designers sell more product, to help them understand how to do user-generated content. They're experts in what they know, but they can't always translate it to the people who need it. And I don't think the average everyday person wants to buy a piece of furniture that falls apart in a year, but they don't know where to go to get good things. And so designers could be an outlet for them. We could have designers selling more furniture. I'm sure of it. And I'd love to teach them how to do it. But I think we need partnerships with brands who get that and want that vision to happen and invest in designers being better at what they do and gaining more market share. We should consider these to the trade brands as and designers as partnerships that can sort of compete with retail, because it's so personal. They can talk about it in such a better way. They might not have the square footage that a retail furniture store has, but they have the knowledge and they can get the right product in the right hands.
Absolutely. So as showrooms become less effective as a distribution channel for furniture companies, striking up partnerships with designers who have closer held consumer relationships that are in the ears of their clients. And, not only that, sort of helping dictate what is stylish, what is trendy in the moment, and almost being able to harness that as part of like the furniture company's workforce.
Yeah. I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense in every area in the world. Interior designers are the tastemakers of their area. And so absolutely arming them with the right information so that they can gain more market share for you is a smart strategy. Instead of having, restoration hardware trucks or Ashley furniture trucks rolling up the street, we could have our individual, receivers rolling up the street with to the trade product.
Interesting. Are there any examples that come to mind of effective partnerships in this genre that you've seen in the past?
Oh, lots of, I've seen lots of designers work with brands directly on social media. And I think there are great designers who've unlocked good user generated content. I think, there are some, I think of Mrs. Pranjape. She's a perfect example for me, where she has, only her work on her feed. In stories is very personable. She's talked through lots of product and she's gotten lots of huge projects because of her online persona and who she is and the information she shares. Not in her own area either. She's gotten projects from all over the country. And lots and lots of product sales because of her user generated content. But there's a lot of designers unlocking this. And I think the tools are getting easier. Instagram released edits in the last year or so that has a teleprompter built in. It has a green screen built in. So if they wanted to have a beautiful, Bernhardt sofa behind them or a Curry and Company light fixture and walk them through why that's special. A lot of consumers don't really know the luxury items in our industry. I'd like to see them know why they're special, have the strong storytelling, talk about the handmade qualities of good product. And I think people want that, but they just don't know. It's very confusing. We've all bought pieces that fell apart in 6 months and thought, what a mistake. I should have gotten something better than this. Obviously, it's stained, it's gross, it's fallen, like the stitching is falling apart. I think many people have made that mistake, and designers could be the way to avoid those mistakes.
Yeah, if you're a brand that isn't making these investments in quality, choosing certain kind of fabric, upholstery, materials, these are conscious choices. And of course, the reason why you're in the business, you're
value engineering. Yeah.
And so, and then, of course, on the other end of the spectrum, there are people that are cutting costs, looking to, produce as much margin as possible. So you end up with products that across a very wide spectrum of quality by leveraging interior designers as a source of knowledge and almost as a mouthpiece to consumers. It's like you can justify those value decisions.
Yeah,
and I know that's something that I appreciate,
Yeah, I think that I always consider the budget like a pie, and there are lots of products within, like, you want to get the most out of that budget no matter what. And it doesn't really matter how wealthy you are. I mean, there's still a budget, there's still limitations. And so, but you want the most out of that budget, and you want the most beautiful outcome and most usable outcome for yourself with that budget. So designers are a great resource to be able to get you that's what they care about too, because they're directly impacted by that budget. So if as good as the picture can be at the end of the project is as good as they will get for the next project down the road. So it behooves them to give you as much as they can with the budget that you have versus other people in the pie who are just trying to maybe sell you, like installing tile or something. The designer needs to have the whole space look as good as possible, so the photography can look as good as possible, so that they can get the next client. And I think that is a trick of it is, and sometimes I know professional athletes who might have a 20-bedroom mansion and they're not spending the same amount of money in their primary as they would in a fourth guest room that gets used once a year when a friend comes over and stays the night or drinks too much or whatever. There's always those budgets, and knowing the best you can get for whatever the budget is a designer, is part of a designer's job.
Are there any things that come to mind, like that furniture companies could be doing to become more friendly or proactive in partnerships with interior designers? Let's say, I don't know, allocating a social media budget, or providing certain kinds of materials, or like anything that comes to mind.
I think there are many things that come to mind. First of all, and that the number one thing is that whether you were classically trained or not, interior designers are hungry for business information. They get usually one business class if they've gone to design school. If they haven't, and they have business background to begin with, they are at an advantage. So understanding that the accounting piece, understanding marketing and sales skills, understanding web development to a small degree. I mean, the average interior design business has 1.2 employees. So that means most of them are one employee only and outsource a little bit of work on the side. Of course, there are big firms that have hundreds of employees, but the average is one. So in that, they have to be everything. And so brands embracing business education is a good idea and a good strategy, because the better you make them as business people, the more they will sell for you. So treating them like they're your unpaid sales force and really teaching them how to do that is better. And that can be handled in lots of ways, like online resources. They could certainly produce content at trade events that is business related. We do that a lot too. We like brands to invest in designers by giving them, resources like interior design communities. So if they want to sponsor IDC, we work with lots of brands to help put on events that help them. So there are many, many ways that they can work with designers, but providing them business education, I think and I tell this to showrooms too. I love when they throw little cocktail parties and little events and get designers together and have fun. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to not be at home with my own family and I'm going to be there with a bunch of colleagues, I need to learn something that I can take home and implement hopefully tomorrow that is going to make my business better. And so focusing on high value events that either increase the profit of a designer, lower the risk of a designer, give them some sort of succession plan, help them invest personally, help them with marketing that is true. These are not like gimmicky things that don't have any ROI, like real business skills, then I think that it pays off for the brand long term, because that strength of that business becomes stronger every year, and they will sell more for the brand.
Very interesting. Something I didn't think about at all, which is like just, offering like contracts to specific designers and
Tricky, because what if they get sued and they want to sue the person who offers the contract? I always think contracts should be really custom and with somebody who knows your state laws too. There's liabilities there that I'd be maybe slightly uncomfortable with contracts, but I do think having an attorney come in at a showroom or an event, we have done that. One of our board members is Wendy Estella, and she is a contract attorney for designers specifically, and she is fantastic. You should have her on this podcast too. She's really great. She actually just released a membership where she's offering advice to designers on the fly too who need contract advice. But we've had her on panels before, and there are specific language in the contracts, and even the way you present your contract. Advice from Wendy is really good. One of the things she says is like, have a story, like even if it's fake, about each item in your contract, so that when your client has that problem down the road, they remember the story. Like it could be, for an example, we do not accept returns on custom made goods, right? And you could say, I know you wouldn't do it, but we had a client who their dog peed on the rug afterwards, and that's why we can't take any custom products back. They're custom made for you, and we don't accept custom returns. And then if they do have that problem down the road, we say, oh, I'm so sorry, we don't accept returns on the custom. Remember the story I told you about the dog peeing on the rug? And then they remember, and then they're like, oh yeah, you did tell me that. And it kind of squashes problems like that in the future. So having like accountants or lawyers come in and do a little speaking is never a bad idea. It gives the designers free advice, and probably to the attorney, new clients that could buy contracts for them that are custom to them.
What trends are you seeing around sourcing, vintage, the resale, DTC brands, or the trade-only manufacturers? Like what trends are you seeing around that?
I think there's a lot of trend around sourcing vintage. I think it's, a way to add personality. I think there's a sustainability element. I think if you're talking about future generations like Gen Z, they really care about heritage of product and are very interested in sustainability. I think that there's a lot of really good stuff already out there. The problem is there's also a lot of really bad stuff out there. So I think that you do need designers to have some expertise in what they're doing with that. I know during COVID, because of the supply chain issues, a lot of designers were utilizing resources that are vintage or secondhand and then reupholstering, reinventing, reimagining those pieces so that they could have something that felt new. And that isn't necessarily gone. There are still some supply chain issues. Tariffs have also increased that issue right now. There are people who aren't importing as much as they used to, and we're still running up against sometimes long deadlines. And then even brands telling designers, hey, you should cancel that order. It's probably not coming in anytime soon. And they've been already waiting for it 15 weeks. So it's going to be part of our world, whether we like it or not. It's better to become educated so that we can source good things and we can reinvent them in the ways that we need them to work into the room.
And how important is, transparency in the pricing, margins, sustainability becoming for designers and all their clients?
I'm against transparency to clients. I don't feel like clients need to know what designer pays for their product line. I mean, what other business do you walk into and you're asking them what they made? I don't think designers are greedy In this piece, I do not great designer. I know out of most people who are working on a project, designers are the first ones to like shave off hours because they don't like the fact that it took them that long to find the right piece. I've seen them literally buy product for the client because it had to be in the space because they have such an emotional attachment to the design. Designers are not the problem, and they do need to earn a living, and the amount of money that they make on furniture. Sometimes for a piece to be delivered to a space, it takes up to 100 touch points, emails, phone calls, follow-ups, messages, DMs, talking to your rep, like meetings to actually implement that into the space. There needs to be profit for a designer. And it's not just in design fees. It's also in project management. It's also in product. It's also in installation. And those are their key ways to earn a living. I don't think they have to, or it is a good model to be sharing out what something costs for them. But I do think that they're lucky if they get 40 gross points. I mean, that is not an average for the interior design business. They aren't getting 40 gross points. We're trying to teach them to get there. But transparency, I just don't, I feel like we get in the weeds about it because of the first time you talk about transparency, this next question is, well, can I get it for your cost? No. No, I can't make a living if I am doing this for you. If I'm touching this product 100 times to get it to your space and know everything about it. And they have so much risk on them. I mean, look at the amount of businesses that have gone out of business in the last years that have taken deposits and now the brand went out of business. I know designers personally who took that on themselves and paid for the furniture or the appliances or what have you, because they wanted to keep the client happy long term. These are women-owned businesses, 90% like LGBTQ-owned businesses. I really want to protect them so that they make a living and they have a retirement account, just like everyone else. They're creatives and they need support.
Going back to social media, if a designer today is ignoring video and that UGC content or their digital presence, what do you think that they're actually risking on the long term?
A complaint that I've heard for years and years from interior designers is consumers don't know what I do. They think that I'm just out here buying furniture, that this job is easy. It's just going out and buying a few pretty things and putting it together. And a lot of people think they can do it themselves. They don't think they need a designer, including this doesn't just extend to consumers. This also extends to builders and architects. And do they need a designer? That's the first question. And designers have a reputation of being very persnickety and needing like detail-oriented plans. But those two don't go hand in hand. Like designer wants it to be perfect, sure. And sometimes they want it to be done in a way that takes a bit more work or a little bit more research, but they do the same thing themselves. They have to research a number of different products. They are thinking of so many things in a filter before they are selecting and servicing. So I personally think video is a great way for them to translate what they do. It's like ballet. If you look at a beautiful ballet and you see the end result or you hear a song, you have no idea what went into making that happen. But designers have this ability now with video to really share the process and share their thought process. Most designers I know are not doing, and no designer I know only wants to do buying furniture or selecting colors for a client. Those are the lowest paid products that a designer can offer. Most of them want full home renovation, space planning, working with the architect and builder on the whole build, whether it's big renovation or new build. They want part of the creative process to build the millwork out, the flow of the house. Most designers know how many inches it needs to be to get the best, version of the space and how you use the space. They want the space to be as usable as possible. And so really articulating that through video is such an opportunity for designers. So I don't want it to be ignored, but I think that it needs to be easy for them because they're so busy. They are so busy. They don't have any time and they're nervous. It needs to look good. Their personal brand means so much to them. So quick, easy ways that help them conquer video, do it correctly so they're not maybe feeling embarrassed about it, but also getting the point across and teaching consumers out there what a designer does, and even contractors, even architects, what a designer does and how they can add to the project. I think it's critical for us to share what we do I think it's misunderstood still.
I feel like interior design is the element of a build out or a home that is the closest to the lived experience of the consumer, right? That's like the things that you're up against every day, like the sofa that you sit on, the feng shui of the house, like the energy that you're dealing with. And yet sometimes they can have maybe the smallest aspect of creative control in the overall process compared to like architects or builders. And yet they are probably the most accountable. But at the same time, getting that seat at the table, getting to be a part of that decision-making process, you have to be out there, showcase your skill, show that you're contributing to this, you're making meaningful contributions to decision-making, and like showcasing your expertise on social media to help educate the consumer can help bridge that divide. It's kind of the vibe that I'm getting.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. And I think designers wear a lot of hats. And although some of them have built great businesses where they are resources to their local architects and builders, and they're first called, early and often in those projects because they know the results will be better. Some have built those relationships already, and some haven't. They're just not there yet. And the projects suffer when a designer isn't involved. How many times have you seen like that great room that has the beautiful kitchen on one end? It's got an island. It's got a space for those island chairs and then it has a space for a dining room, a space for a living room, and a fireplace on one wall. I mean, that build is very, very, very common. And I will tell you that very often, if you're looking at that space empty, it looks perfectly fine. It's a big open room. But if you put the furniture in, you would actually have to put the sofa like 5 feet away from the television that would go over the fireplace, which a designer wouldn't want you to do. So designers are thinking about everything, how you use the space, every piece of furniture, what the size should be, how you would walk around it. If you pull out your chair and you get out of it, do you have enough room to get around that? How many feet do you need from the island to the refrigerator? So your groceries on the island, and then you're going to put them away. Can you pivot and put them away easily? Or is it 3, 4, 5 steps? They're thinking about that, how you use that space all the time. And I know in my house, I have a primary suite, and our primary bath has one of my favorite features, by the way. It has built-in cabinetry, and you open one of the pieces of cabinetry. I have all sorts of like shallow space for my products. And then I have a laundry chute that goes right down into my bathroom. And I can tell you, it's so lovely to save me the time of lugging down my laundry down to the next floor to do my laundry. I just throw it down the laundry chute and I don't have to deal with it. And there's a laundry basket down there collecting it. It's these thoughtful measures that designers are thinking about all the time, in every avenue of the space, so that things are disappear and you see what they want you to see. You don't see what they don't want you to see, and that you're navigating the space in the most effortless way possible. That is what design is.
And because it's effortless, it's almost like really like, so times really good design, you wouldn't even notice. It's effortless. It's integrated.
You wouldn't even notice. Yeah. And you don't notice it until you don't have it.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's why it's so important for them
once
to
you see that you don't actually have enough room to move around that table. Yes. Yeah. They can, in some ways, look at any one of their portfolio images and tell you the millions of projects, like their thought process through it and why they selected the pieces and why they placed them there. I'd like them to do content like that if they have time. It's really a time thing, and some of them feel comfortable with it and some of them don't, and they don't know how to build scripts out. We need to do a better job teaching them what they need to know to do that. But the amount of great information and the care and the thought in a designer's brain, it's invaluable. And I really want more of it to get out there, because you just have no idea how the levels that they're thinking and the filters that they have in their brain in order to make any decision about any product and about any space planning that gets done in the home. It's really, really interesting to watch.
And would you then say that probably a very good measure or indicator that a designer is going to be successful is then their ability to like talk through and showcase this thought process?
Yeah. They have to be able to sell their value to the client, what they're bringing to the table beyond buying furniture for someone. They have to be able to, a lot of designers have an onboarding process and that can articulate and make it's trust is what's being engaged here. The client has a big budget, in some cases, no matter what, it's a big budget to them. If it's a small project or a very large luxury project, whatever it is one of their single most big investments they make in themselves is their home. And so they're there has to be a lot of trust. They want the home to look like them, like they live there, that it's their decisions, and they're trusting someone else to help that vision come to life. And that's a really scary thing. And so a lot of it is articulating how that trust can happen. And designers have to create good plans to let the client know that this investment is going to have an ROI as well. I mean, they're thinking about future planning so that they can stay ahead of trends instead of following trends so that it dates the product. I mean, sometimes these bills are 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. I mean, it depends on the size of the property. And so decisions they make now could become out of date by the time it's even installed. Certainly now, because of our social media cycles, trends move so fast. So designers are always thinking about pushing that envelope and working outside of trends and figuring out how to future-proof any design that they do.
And so as someone who is at the forefront of the industry and the community, how do you think that the trends are going to change over the next 5-10 years in terms of how designers make a living?
I think that designers are going to get a lot more confident in their pricing models and what they bring to the table. I think they bring so much and they care so much. They're essential to a really good project. And I'd like to see designers get better at articulating that, whether it be how that works with the client. Like, here's what the price is, here's all of the different stages of the project. I think there are some designers who are there, but I think that's the learning curve of being able to sell what you do confidently. And they're going to get better at that over time. I mean, I already am seeing them get better at that and having good systems so that they're able to show what they do, have great SOPs and onboarding documents. We have a greater increase of investment guides and onboarding documentation that helps the client understand the journey and understand the expectations. A lot of it is informed consent. Like I said, designers didn't have this business training. And so they're learning it now and they're getting better at doing it.
After speaking with you just for, I think it's 45 minutes, I can tell why you're the one that runs the community. There's so much passion and you're clearly such an advocate for the people in the community. It's been really refreshing to hear your viewpoint.
I love them.
Yeah, they're like your babies. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, we're closing in on our hour together. And so the final question that I want to ask you is, if you were going to start the interior design community again today from scratch, what would you do differently and what would you double down on?
I think I probably would start the investment into our own things earlier, our website, our own email list a lot earlier than I did so that I could have, our CRM so that our communication with designers was documented better. I think we're pretty good. We've always been very data focused. So we're very interested in the numbers and how that works and what we do is working and doing the things that work more. So that is what we've done very well, but I think we would expand that. And I think we probably would have monetized earlier. So working with brands, I never wanted to work with design. I didn't want designers to be the income resource for interior design community. I feel like they get asked for money from everyone, and they're small business owners. So I wanted brands to support us. And I have great brands that do support the community, but I probably would have pushed that earlier. I think that brands were reluctant in the beginning to support this initiative, and they're less concerned with it now. They want to be a part of interior design community. And so I probably would have built up a better media kit and a better plan for the ROI for the brands to work with us earlier on, because money helps me support them,
These are definitely only lessons that you can learn in hindsight, especially the way that you guys grew organically, almost altruistically, right? Like if you had gone into it with that intention, it wouldn't have been the success that it is today. But of course, retrospectively, yeah. All right, amazing. Well, Laurie, thank you so much for coming on the pod today, sharing your perspective. It's been a pleasure. If anyone wants to connect with you and learn more about the community, where should they reach out?
The best way is either on our Instagram, which is @Interior Design Community, or they can find us on our website, which is interiordesignCommunity.com.
Okay,
Awesome.
Amazing. Thank you so much.